G'day folks, Jonathan here. Humie and I were lucky enough to be out at the hangar this morning to be around for the press conference with Mark McVeigh, formally being announced as the senior coach of the Essendon Football Club for season 2027 and beyond. We were also lucky enough to sit down with Mark for a bit of an interview along with Scooter from Lunchtime Catch and Fiona from Bomber Banter. Great that the club could give us access to be able to do that. It was a really insightful chat. We got a lot out of it. Hopefully you guys do as well. Without further ado, we'll get stuck in.
Welcome, Spike. Look, it's awesome to have you coaching the footy club. So First of all, I just wanted to say personally for me, fully welcome. We're so excited to have you on. And I'm curious, you've actually just played Essendon not many weeks ago. Where it had a contrast of a first quarter to a competitive last three quarters. How did you did you cheekily kind of go, I'm watching kind of both teams? Or how did you see that game and where you saw the vision?
I think, of course you have one eye on, without knowing that you had won the role, you have one eye on what the club's doing. And I've always watched Essendon anyway, just as a supporter in behind the scenes. There was some wonderful things that I've seen over maybe a 6 to 8 week period where I started to really narrow my focus. Against, the thing that's great when you come from another club, we identify, let's just say my former club, the Sydney Swans, we identify the weaknesses in the opposition a fair bit, and we want to exploit that. So it forms your opinion about, okay, when you go into a place like Essendon, you can automatically sort of let them know that when the opposition plays you, this is what they're talking about. You don't really get that too often, when you're in the AFL environment and you've been coaching for a period of time, you get a new coach and all of a sudden you get a different perspective on what perhaps the Sydney Swans think of you as a team. Clearly at the time we felt like that, we could move the ball pretty quickly, length of ground sort of stuff, try and expose as best we possibly can. We knew there was a lot of younger players there that really go hard for 15 or 20 minutes and drop off, because that's what happens when you're a young group. We knew that, so we wanted to sustain pressure on the group. And at some stage it would crack to a degree, and that's not having a go at anyone. That's just now the reality of the young team we got. So I really had a good look at it. I love some of the stuff against the Giants, against the Crows at times, early doors, but certainly I've got a good perspective on what it looks like to where we need to fix. Yep, definitely.
Congratulations, Spike. Really looking forward to seeing what this path holds for all of us. I want to talk to you about confidence. Seemingly we had a handful of guys this season who perhaps were, lacking some belief towards the end for various reasons. How do you go about kind of navigating that piece of the puzzle and the mindset of some of these guys?
So I just spoke to the players, and part of this is we want to make our weapons as strong as we possibly can, and we want to make our role players relevant. So I think that message is really important, because every player is different and every player will play a different role. They'll be assigned to a role, and you'll see that come out and what it looks like with our new game plan. They'll need to learn certain names and certain areas of the ground that they need to be able to play. And that could be multiple options, but they don't need to study it. And there'll be a group of them studying a certain position. There'll be another group studying a certain position. Then they go out and execute, because, at any given moment, injury, rotations, players will play in different spots, as you know. So our role players need to understand that, if you feel like you're not getting enough of the footy, or your form's not great, if you perform your role that supports our team, we highlight that. It's not about kicks, marks, handballs, goals. It'll be like, this happened because of that role, and they'll be highlighted. I think that's really important.
Congratulations on the role, Mark.
Thank you, mate.
Looking through your past coaching history, I noticed there was a lot of focus on development. The element of your coaching history that really stood out to me was your work with the Allies in 2023. Under the modern championship structure, they'd never finished above the bottom two, and since you coached them, they haven't finished above the bottom two. But you managed to take them to a premiership. I guess in terms of your role as the coach of that, what did you see your impact on those young players? And what did it teach you about teaching young players, especially given where Essendon's list is at now?
Yeah, it was a unique challenge, that one, because I'm not sure if you know how the Allies are made up, but obviously Tasmania, New South Wales, Gold Coast, Brisbane. So a lot of them high in talent, looking to really impress at the championships. We had in the past, they'd spoken about that it was a very individualized game, so they couldn't really connect together as a group. Pretty much laid out that we were going to connect as a group to win the championship, and if we did that, we'd get multiple players drafted. It wasn't just about that, so we sold that message. Went really hard on camps around getting together, bringing them in from the States and actually getting to know each other. We had 3 occasions where we could do that. Once we went to the championships, they fully understand what sort of coach I was around. It's about team, not the individual. And if the team was successful, we'd get plenty drafted. In the end, they bought in, and I think we had 15 drafted, which was unbelievable. And we won. So, it was a year that Harley Reid was in the competition in the final. So, that's what we'll have to promote here at this club. And I think we've already started, to be fair. I think we're a long road down the track, and just meeting the players and getting a bit of a view on them. They seem like really good young men. They've bought into what we're trying to do, but they'll need to understand that everything we do on field and off field will be about Essendon. It won't be about I. And we've got to shift that mindset. I'm not saying they all think like that at all, but it'll be about Essendon, not I. Yeah. And the great teams I played in or coached in are all about team, always.
Well, there's no I in Essendon.
No, there isn't. There isn't none. There isn't.
You've just come up with a new membership slogan. Is it Spike still, or is it Mark now that you're?
I just got asked that by Archie Roberts. He goes, I don't know what to call you. I feel disrespectful. I said, no, look, it doesn't really matter. Darren, he said, well, where did it come from? I said, well, Darren Buick started it back in the day. Boris had spiky hair, and clearly don't now. And it just stuck, and everyone in the country calls me it. So I'm happy either way. It doesn't really bother me. People know me from my playing days. People know me from coaching. I'm pretty easy, mate, on that.
Very good. You mentioned in the presser that post missing out on the Giants role, you went away and worked on yourself.
Yeah.
Got some feedback.
Yeah. Any
specifics you can share on what you did there?
Well, they wanted me to make sure that I had more experience at another club. I'd been at the Giants for 10 years. We took a team of young players, as I said, right through. We developed them. We developed a game plan that was built on contest. And I don't know if you can remember, we developed the Orange Tsunami. And, it was really powerful. Yeah. And we had the players to support that type of play. So we took them all the way through. We got, agonising close in 2019, come up against a gun Richmond team. We went on a stretch of runs, through that period, big prelims against Collingwood, big first final win against Brisbane up there, unbelievable win. So I think for me, it was more about, okay, I need to experience something else. Leon Cameron moved on. I finished second to Kingsley, who's a really good coach. Kind of sat back a little bit. He asked me to stay for a few years. To his credit, he goes, I'll help you become a senior coach. I felt it was time though. And the Swans Academy role came up. I thought, you know what, I'm going to double down in development and be the head coach of that. So I did that for 12 months and had some good success, and then back into the senior men's program under John Longwire, who we went to a grand final that year. And then with Dean Cox this year, we've had the Swans have had the best season for wins in their history, 18 wins. It's pretty remarkable achievement.
Can I ask, with the reality of us finishing 18th, what it does give is Matt Rose and the management an off-season with a fairly good draft hand. I'm wondering your philosophy, because obviously we had a good draft hand in previous years.
Yeah.
We're obviously going to have a lot of hopefully high-end talent come in. How do you balance that then on the balance of youth and leadership in an age bracket? Because Essendon's kind of got this 18 to 21 bracket, then there's kind of a gap.
Yep.
And then there's maybe even a gap with outside merit. There's no real 30-year-olds.
Yes.
So how do you see that as a list management going forward?
Yeah, I think the challenge is bridging that gap, isn't it? We probably have to make sure we develop a really strong leadership plan for the players that are coming through. If you talk about some players that are a little bit older, they're sort of been in it for quite some time. They've seen different ways on how to lead. I think we need to target our emerging leaders. That's our target. So, those players that are coming through that have got leadership qualities that everyone's spoken about. And to be fair, I don't know all of them yet, and I will. But we'll bring in an aggressive leadership program that'll develop our players that are emerging, and try and bridge that gap as quickly as we possibly can. It's the challenge in that is, and I've been a part of groups where the leaders are really strong. If you think about Phil Davis and Callum Ward, they were very strong leaders, very strong. They were ruthless in their approach. They were good people, and they turned up every week and played, the same every week. You go back to the Swans and what they've done with Callum Mills, and their leadership is really strong. And that's been, whether my brother was part of all that, I've seen that firsthand. I've seen it at Essendon back in the day, what it looks like. We have to develop the players. We've got the opportunity now to do it. We actually cannot miss. We cannot miss what we've got coming. And you certainly highlighted about the players that potentially we can bring into our club from a draft point of view. We'll attack free agency, and we'll go to work on maybe bringing one or two players in that have great leadership skills. Now, there's a challenge in that as well. We've got to have those meetings and see how we go.
Yeah.
But we will try and bolster that top end with some good leaders if we can. That's a target.
Actually, just on the leadership, we were arguably in my opinion, two of our best leaders. We were without them on field for most of this year in Nick Martin and Braden Fiorini.
Yeah,
our senior players' leadership is an extension of your leadership. And one thing I notice and I highlight on my show a lot is whenever we're at Marvel Stadium playing Sydney, it is so evident how loud I can hear Dane Rampy and Callum Mills bellowing. Bellowing from the second level. So I guess I'm wondering, what does good on-field leadership look like to you, and how are you going to go about empowering some of these senior players?
Yeah, good on-field leadership is an extra voice of the coach. Like, it's organising, setting everyone up in the right position, even when you're exhausted. Like Dane Rampy, he never ever shuts up. But it's not just ramble.
Yeah.
It's targeted towards system and game plan. Callum Mills is the same. Those two players in particular know the setup in and out. So when I ring them up on the phone, they know exactly what I'm talking about, and they can distribute that message really quickly. We probably need some serious leadership behind the ball in terms of a big organiser and talker that perhaps is like a Rampy who sits a bit deeper in behind to support our defence. We need to look at that, and we need to develop it as well. That's part of the challenge of our list build at the moment, and we know we're probably 2 or 3 years into a 5-year tack of the year draft. So when we look at the draft, we'll target obviously the best talent, but we're looking at leadership as well. But again, like I said, if we can have some success off field around bringing in some players that have great history in that space and have come from great clubs, we'll target that and we'll go as hard as we can. We can't promise that because there's a lot of machinations that go around all that, but there's some people.
There's some phone calls you can make. 15 of those allies guys.
Yeah, there's a few there. There's a few there, and people I've worked with in the past. I mean, when you've been in the industry for 30 years, you know a lot of people. So yeah.
You've talked about, you've brought these people up before, the head coaches you've worked under, and they've all been successful in their own way. Obviously, John Longmire is a premiership coach. Leon Cameron, nearly got there. Dean Cox has obviously built something that's performed quite well. What have you taken from them that you think is going to inform the way that you act as a head coach?
Unrelenting on standards, and that's as simple as that. It's across everything. They don't allow anyone to step off the line too far, and that'll happen with young people. We've got to keep honing in on what we're trying to do around our game plan. But John Longmire was unrelenting on standards. Never missed. Always turned up with energy, and would call it out in a respectful way. And players knew, and it was just inbuilt. You walked into the footy club of the Sydney Swans, you knew exactly what was required and how we're going to do it, and that's what we'll establish this year straight away. Our new draftees will walk in and they'll understand.
Yeah.
So they're unrelenting on their standards. Knew exactly the way they wanted to play, and also how we should train, and the standards around our footy club, how we should treat people, how we should uphold our emblem in the community is really important.
Yeah. You mentioned before prep for the Essendon game when you're at the Swans around coast to coast and being vulnerable in that area. I think we made some strides there, honestly. In fact, I think that game against the Swans might have been our best result for the year in terms of
you're good.
Coast to coast.
Yep.
Ball movement.
After quarter time, yep.
Yeah. So I think we went from 18th pretty much every year for the last 5 or 6 to top 8 in the last 5 or 6 weeks. I guess one of the things Essendon fans will be a little bit nervous of is a little bit of here we go again, another coach change, another game plan change. Do you feel under Dean we've been able to put some things into place that give you a bit of a blueprint to move forward and it's not all start from scratch?
No, I do. Absolutely, I do. I think Dean was, it's really hard as an interim coach to change things. It's actually tough. People don't always understand that. It's just so difficult. You can't have long 2-hour sessions where you can train them and educate them. And, you've got minimal time, a lot of recovery to get up for the next game. So it's really difficult. I think we made some strides in that area. We need a pre-season at it. We've got to train it. They've got to see what it looks like. As I said, our defense will be role-based. They'll know exactly where they need to be, how we're going to do it. You think of the top 6 teams in the last 10 years, turnover score, defending D50 to inside 50, top 6, turning the ball over between the arcs, top 6. All those sort of things are living in your front half and owning territory. We've got to get to that point. Now, there'll be things that they'll be not balanced. We know that. What happens when you're coaching, you fix one thing and 4 weeks later something else pops up and you got to concentrate. That's how it happens. So, those areas, we'll keep looking at what consistently top 6 teams are successful at, and the players will understand that, and we'd target those areas. Because like you said, within 8 weeks, we fix up majority Evo in defense, contest and offense. We sat really low in the competition. We've got to fix it.
I guess my question is, some of the young talent, who you kind of seeing, I know you probably don't want to individualise, but who excites you as far as what you're seeing? Obviously, you see the Caddy Kick 6 in the last go, but obviously we had a recent draft haul, but who are you seeing going, I'm really liking?
Yeah, I think Broby was exciting to see. I'm a bit like you. I don't really want to mention too many names because we've got to do this together. And what we need to make sure we don't just talk about our emerging talent, because we've still got that mid-tier players that I think we can get more out of and the best out of them. We can still drive them, even though perhaps at times we might have a gap like you spoke about. I still feel like I can shift those players with the right coaching and the right support. So definitely the last 3 years target draft has been outstanding. There's no doubt about that. I was actually surprised. I walked in. We're big. We're tall. Like, compared to the Swans, I was like, geez, we're big. Don't really know, and so I was like, okay, that's one part. But then you got the transition of running. Can we do that as well? So we've got to support our tools around transition in running. So yeah, I'm excited what's coming through. I'm excited what we can do with the draft hand we've got this year, and that may vary to what happens in the next few weeks about what we're going to talk about with our players. I mean, as you've seen out there in the press conference, I don't know these players. I don't know their feelings. I don't know what they're about, and we have to make sure we respect their feelings. If you come to Essendon, and I'm big on this, if you onboard into our footy club, you need to make sure that they're looked after. But when they exit, it's just as important. When they exit, it's just as important, because one day we want to invite them back. They want to come back and either sit with their daughter or their son in the crowd and wear a Bombers scarf, because not only did they might have played 10 games, they might have played 100, but the exit of that player for whatever reason is respectful and done in the right way. So that's really important.
That's good.
Yeah.
You obviously had a little chat and a sit down with Matt Rosa already, I believe.
2 hours.
2 hours, yep. Sounds about right. Can you give us a bit of an insight about, do you have a certain prototype of player that you have in mind that you wanted to kind of just let him know about?
Yeah, we were really aligned, to be fair. We're really aligned with some of the players. We identified some areas, obviously, we need to improve in. I want to get some more speed. Clearly, we need some more speed, whether that's inside or out of the footy, to support the new game plan. And that takes time, but we've got some irons in the fire with that. Where we kind of had a consistent message together that where we're at with certain players and people and what we need to do. So I feel like we're aligned there. It was a great meeting. It wasn't like we're at odds. It was very much together. So we'll shift some things. Again, we'll be respectful of our people, though, no matter what.
Yeah. You spoke about, for the players, that the key thing for them is going to be those unrelenting standards. Yeah. I guess in the terms of expressing that on the field, when supporters watch Essendon in 2027, what do you want them to recognise immediately as this is a Mark McVeigh team?
Yeah. I think what you need to, we want to be competitive in every game. I think the system that you teach can help you with momentum against you. It can support our players when the tide's against you. So what I do want to see is we need to attack pretty aggressively. But with comes the attack, you got to have great team D in behind. So because often when you play a little bit quicker, the ground's a lot bigger and wider. They've got to adhere to the roles. So I want to excite our fans. I want them to see a difference straight away. We'll coach contests really hard. Our method, I think our method can get better than what it is perhaps right now in the contest, in the scramble phase. So we've got to teach the method around, okay, often at times, if I've watched Essendon, we're ahead of the footy a fair bit, okay, before it's been decided. I'll have roles around that to support, okay, we're not all going for the football, we're not all receiving, we've got to support our D. So we will train that pretty heavily.
I've got a question from my 7-year-old nephew, Hudson, who refers to himself as the biggest Essendon supporter on the Gold Coast.
Right.
Yep. And he's excited that you're here because his favourite player is Isaac Kaka.
Yes.
And he's worked out a U or number 10, just like him. Mm. He wants, so my brother, Andrew, who you would know, has shown him some of your highlights on YouTube. Mm. Hudson wants to know if you can teach Isaac to take speckies like him.
Yeah. I've forgotten I could do that. I think, look, it's my kids like to see that stuff. I don't really like to see, but they do. But I think Isaac is a, player with tremendous potential, and we've got to work out as a coaching group where we play him. Yeah. I think that's an important part. I think he's a multi-faceted player. Can he support contest? Does he play deep? Where does it fit for him? And I've got to probably get into his psyche a little bit around what are your fitness levels like? Can you run? What's your 2K time trial? All that sort of stuff. And what's going to best support us with our roles, and will maximise his weapons, which is clearly fall ball, speed, causing chaos for the opposition once the ball gets inside 50. So we need to tap into what that looks like for him.
Well, that's it from down at the hangar today. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks again to everyone for your support. As always, stay safe and go Dons.